Hello everyone. This is going to be a bit of a bonus, non-action, all talking, all reading little episode. There's a lot of text and dialogue to get through in the World's End University, and I think we'll just do it now. Feel free to skip, because I'll just be talking to 2 or 3 different NPCs, as well as going through some books. But if you're interested in checking out some lore and characterization, that's what we'll be doing. So this is EO. He is the assistant to the leader of the university. Keep loitering our isles, traveler, and you'll end up trampled by sleep-deprived scientists. What brings you to World's End University? Do you need something? Can you tell me about this place? Here we study and analyze lost tech from the ancient world. Slowly but surely we've been uncovering the secrets of our forgotten history. The problem that is most ruins have already been scavenged, making it difficult to develop accurate theories without solid evidence. So that's where our tech hunters come in. They scour the unexplored lands for any possible remains we can use in our research. If you're interested in venturing, our stores pay good money for relics. Make sure you bring anything you find to us, okay? Sure. Great enough, that's everything. I've got work to do. So we'll get back to talking as soon as he's ready. I had some questions about your work. Did you have something specific in mind? There's not a great deal of information I can lighten you that hasn't already been documented in our records. Can you teach me about world history? With all due respect, Outlander, asking you to sum up the history of the world is not much different to asking a doctor to teach you medicine in 10 minutes. On top of that, many scientists have different theories on events. I suggest you browse through our library if you're interested to know more. The Holy Nation talks of a first extinction. What do you know of it? The first extinction? I personally believe it to be a plague epidemic. Mr. Finch stands firmly by it being a freak tornado. Whatever it was, it appears that the skeleton was better equipped to survive it. But human nature is to scapegoat, in particular, those that are different to them. You've existed way back to ancient times, right? Can you remember anything? The memory of a skeleton is not as long-lasting as our bodies, unfortunately. I don't even remember if I existed within the ancient race or not. Trust me, it is highly frustrating for a theorist to have possibly existed at the very time period they are dedicated to investigating. What happened to the ancients, and how did we come to be? Mr. Finch believes that all organics to be directly descendants of smaller tribes outside of the ancient society. And the ancients? We think that they have lived disconnected from the rest of the world. A deadly disease could have killed them off while leaving the skeletons and other tribes unaffected. But again, there are many different theories on how we all came to be. Okay. So last thing is if we instead talk to him with a skeleton. So we'll bring Sadniel up to him. I had some questions. Look, you don't need to worry. No one will ever know the truth. As long as I am Finch's second in command, I will see to that myself. Let's not waste each other's time with this act anymore. So the information we're getting from EO is definitely a suspect. Especially about the first extinction, or second extinction, whatever. As well as the ancient race, and even if he was alive during that time period or not. Also, talk to Finch. Interrupting my thought process. This better be important. Always thought I'd find peace and quiet working here, but nope. I just get noisy adventurers asking too many questions. What is this place? Well, why not just take a look around, genius? Books, workbenches, worked it out yet? This is a university. From here we send tech hunters northwest to salvage relics and samples. Then it's my team's job to piece together the history and lost tech of our ancient ancestors. I thought the Holy Nation were against all things tech-related. The Holy Nation, what's that got to do with? Oh, right. I guess you refer to the statues of the Lord Phoenix outside. No more than decoys is all they are. We are not affiliated with the Holy Nation, despite appearances, but the statues keep them happy. The holy fools are gullible enough to lap it up. Not so smart, that one. Can you teach me about the history of the area? If I explained history of the world to every boar of an adventurer who dropped by, I wouldn't have much time to carry out my actual research, would I? You expect everything, you people. One minute you want me to work, next you want to rip me from my bubble of silence and knowledge. Speak to my assistant Io. Even better, read my books or go buy my blueprints if you really want knowledge. I've certainly published enough of them. Don't fancy yourself a bit of adventuring, then? Adventuring is for simple-minded ruffians with a death wish, but their work is necessary for my research, so I won't judge them too harshly for it. I personally prefer the solitude of my lab, where I can work without the interference of such pointless queries. Too bad there are a lot more where that one came from. What is this place? Back to the university. I see, thanks. Okay, and so there are a lot of books we can find as well. Tech Hunter's Notes, The Holy Nation. The Holy Nation hates technology, and it isn't sitting on anything good either. The problem is crossing it to get all the good unexplored stuff in the north. They don't like non-human races. If you're attempting a crossing, you need at least one human male in your squad that can act as part of a master. It pays to carry one of their holy books too, in case you need to bluff your way out of a situation with the paladins. Skeletons are attacked on sight, so you'll have to go around in that case. Don't go to that bloody place. Freaking paladins climbing up your arse every 10 paces trying to tell you your clothes are wrong or some crap. Ended up I had to fight my way out of there because I offended some shitty hatted chump and he got all angry and tried to stab me. Had to deck a few of them, but there were loads of the buggers. Ever fought your way out of an entire country before? Bloody chaos, I can tell you. My squad was pretty pissed at me after that, though. Cultural Groupings and Evolution. Part 1. How did our current cultures come into being? And is there a relation to the ancients? Evidence suggests the existence of lesser tribes which may have survived the mass extinction due to different genetic makeup due to the ancients. However, whether their existence coincides with the timeline of them, we cannot confirm. And what about the differing characteristics between our present races? Environmental evolution is likely cause of our rather drastic changes in appearance to one another, or even mutations from the industrial remains of the ancients. We share the main features to suggest we at least share the same roots at least. As for the ancient master race, given the advanced level of technology used by them, it is a very real possibility that they were not from our lands, but in fact an alien race of settlers in search of new natural resources. Our then primitive ancestors would have been powerless to repel the invaders from their homelands, but instead lived a neutral distance from them. Whether alien or simply a whole new life form to us, the level of brain power they possessed was something beyond even our own physical means. Mass Extinction Part 3. How did the skeletons survive the mass extinction of the ancients? Natural disaster and war explain the areas of destruction that we have found during excavations, but they do not explain the continuation of the skeleton. Only biological and environmental factors can explain this. The ancients certainly had intellectual capacity to carry out biological warfare against each other, which the skeletons would have survived. In fact, an attack could easily have been carried out by the skeletons themselves. Even non-self-afflicted biological dangers such as plague, famine, and toxic pollution from overmining are all possibilities. The central mines have shown us that they carried out excessive extraction of the resources from the land. Byproducts from this may have easily caused mutations and disease with the inhabitants. Legend of the Headless Ancient, Part 2. The Headless Ancient is but a perfect example of why we must approach rumors and reports with skepticism. We've had just one sighting of this ancient being, by one, might I add, alcohol enthusiast adventurer. Not only is Fian an unreliable sole source to rely on, but the woman claims to have instantly run away at the first sight of the being due to its terrible hideousness. So we have one witness, who was likely intoxicated, and who fled with seconds upon sighting it, meaning we have a very short, panicked, and irrational source of information to rely on. A myth started by yet another crazy adventurer. Let's put this one to rest and concentrate our efforts elsewhere, not on rambling myths. Okranite Theories in Relations to Findings, Part 1. The Okranite scripts, although rather eccentric, are some of the oldest legible texts salvaged to this day, and may offer a useful insight into the history of the ancients. The most notable point of their teachings is that the enemy, the demon, Narko, and her skeletons. Was Narko in fact the leader of the skeletons, and Okran an ancient human who managed to save a few remaining survivors from destruction in a battle between the two sides? This still does not explain the malice for the other races, other than simplistic fear of those who are different. The most plausible explanation would be the non-humans were born from the lesser tribes of the time, which the ancient humans warred with. These tribal societies would have been seen as inferior, incapable of grasping advanced concepts, and thus feared as contaminating their pure blood. Tech Hunter's Notes, Leviathan Coast. There are likely good sources of valuable equipment in the area, if you don't mind crossing the Cannibal Plains. The Black Desert. The Black Desert isn't hospitable for anything other than skeletons. Organics should cover themselves with boots and long coats. The city is a good place to trade from unusual tech. If you see any twisters, get the hell out of there. Make sure you wear a nice hat. Oh, and some good boots or your feet will melt. The Mystery of Skeletech, too. The memory loss is perhaps as perplexing as their very survival. With that, a large portion of salvaged skeleton remains show that suicide is the cause of death. But what is the reasoning behind this tragic mass suicide? The skeletons are logical thinkers. It makes sense that once they have carried out their life's purpose, there's no need for them to live on. And it's an existential crisis, if you will. Now, for the purpose of the skeleton, to destroy their enemy, the ancient civilization. Whether they infiltrated the ancient society with a mission, succumbed to their own madness, or simply rebelled and triumphed against their masters in a civil war, their job was plain and simple destruction. Legend of the Forsaken Howler. Rumors of a feathery birdman, an oversized long beak, exposed skull, and protracted pointed claws. The beast is described to produce jarring sounds of a deafening screech. Spotted in the area of the tar sands. Hostility unknown. Possibly a ghoul or mutant from the ancient race. I believe there should be a little bit more to read here. Just saw all their books and barrels. Tech Hunter's Notes, The Swamps. Our expedition to establish a deep swamp outpost was a total failure. We just didn't come equipped with the appropriate tech. It's no place for a simple outpost. There's no wind for the generators. Regular crops can't be grown there. The damn raptors are bigger and meaner. And don't even get me started on the goddamn spiders. I don't know how the swampers survive in that place. Everything is trying to eat you or your supplies. It was only supposed to be a simple scouting run, so I took a bunch of rookies with us, and that was a mistake. Only 3 of them made it back. That way station saved our lives, I think. You better be good at carrying people, because you're going to be carrying most of your damn squad to that damn swamp when the friggin' blood spiders be biting at your heels. Don't leave any of your woundeds alone for 10 minutes, or you could come back to a pile of clothes and goddamn empty sack of skin. So yes, there's probably some tech to be dug up there in there somewhere, but I don't think it's worth it. Hey, the Lost Ancients too. Without a doubt, at least 2 very distinct cultures existed before our own. However, when these civilizations came into being is the key question. On what evidence are we assuming that these civilizations existed at different times? Y appears to be intellectually inferior, but the similar tech levels clearly suggest that these 2 cultures did in fact overlap in history. Did the 2 civilizations war with and destroy each other? Was one isolating itself and fleeing from the other? Judging by the relics and advanced tech from X, its culture was largely skeleton-based. If the skeletons from X warred with and wiped out the organic life forms of Y, this would at least give some plausibility to the religious scripts found within the various schools of Okranism. We cannot write off the historical input of an established religion on account of the disciples' irrational interpretation of it. Clouded with irrationality it may be, but I believe we can still salvage some truth from its ancient foundations. Mass Extinction 2. The other researchers make far too many assumptions within their theories that the ancients created the skeletons. Organics and skeletons. We do not know how either came into being. Remaining damages to the ruins show the destruction either by means of natural disaster or the use of a superweapon in internal conflict. Now, if the master race owned the skeleton, surely it would be the skeleton on the front line and the first to die, not the skeleton being the apparent sole surviving race. If it was in fact vice versa and the skeleton was actually the master race, this may be more conceivable that they turned out to be the sole survivors. Skeletons were either the sole race of the ancient civilization or the master race. No evidence suggests that any other dominant race. How the skeleton first came into being is irrelevant. After all, this is a question that all living things share in common and should not be used to undermine their role in society. Pool of Obedience. Someone has spilled ink all over the book, likely a simple accident. Nothing of significance is readable anymore. Legend of the Mist Ghoul. Sightings of hovering, ghoulish creatures from the Misty Caverns west of the Holy Nation Plains. These ghouls possess elongated black frames with long fingers, glowing eyes, and a mouth that stretches to the size of a full-grown man. Travelers who delve into the mist are renowned for not returning again. Until further notice, expeditions are to be avoided to the area. So a lot of this is just drunken rumors and ramblings and hearsay. Some of it's interesting. Mass Extinction Part 1. Judging by our findings to date, the ancients possessed enormous power capable of both extraordinary creation and immense destruction. But what led to their abrupt end? Natural disaster is the most logical theory. This would explain the larger areas of destruction, and it may even tie in more plausibly with the Okranite tellings of the first extinction, by tribals brainlessly associating it with an act of God. Newly created skeletons may have been incubating in the safe place during the event, hence how they survived, and why they have no memory of the incident. They were not born yet at the time. Evidence of the safe place, though, we have not yet discovered. Cultural groupings and evolution, too. Though our present cultures have links to the ancients, we've not yet found any evidence of a separate ancient race to our own, which indicates that our current races as we know them possibly all originate from the few survivors of one master race. This would mean that the ancients were some form of human, Shek, or Hiver, although with such considerable differences in appearance, natural evolution's involvement feels hard to swallow. But evolution aside, who created whom? The skeletons or the ancient master race? So far we've not found any tech that would be capable of organic creation, but many of the ruins indicate a strong skeleton presence. Even so, arts and miscellaneous remains suggest the coexistence of both within the ancient kingdom, and without a doubt, I would bet my life that we are the surviving descendants of them. Legend of the Grieve Wraith. Holy Nation legend tells of souls of the lost Shek becoming consumed by malice, hate, and envy for the living. Their naturally aggressive nature, as the Okranites claim, make them the most easily corruptible by the demoness. The Grieve Wraith consists of a rotting corpse with the spikes or limbs of a flesh insect protruding from its back. Supposedly this is its mid-transformation into a beast. Now, legend aside, we've had numerous sightings of these wraiths, both by Holy Nation residents and adventurers, mainly around the ruins of the Central Plains. So far we've learned that they are nocturnal, and they prefer to take the victims into the rubble of cities which have all been heavily touched by death. All of its victims have disappeared without a trace, we can only assume fully consumed by the wraith. A likely explanation for their existence would be a parasitic form of flesh insect, one which roots itself into the bony matter of a Shek body, and continues to grow and control the body even after its victim has perished and become decomposition. So I took a bit of a look around. I believe that is all the books I could find on site here. So that will be it for the end of this bonus episode. Whether we've learned anything of use, or just misdirection and conspiracy, drunken ramblings, we don't know. But hopefully it was interesting for you, and I'll catch up with everyone in one of the next episodes.